Sundaa Bridget-Jones, thank you so much for being here with us today. So we're at the Resilience 2017 conference. Now you work as a Senior Associate Director at the Rockefeller Foundation, focusing on international development. Tell us, what does that mean?
So first of all, thanks so much, Jolie, for this opportunity, and it's such a delight to be here. I did not attend the Montpellier conference, so to come here and see the combination of people thinking and talking and exploring these concepts is just wonderful. I mean, resilience and international development for the foundation really means thinking through how can we deal with a triple threat of urbanization, globalization, and climate change, and understanding better the impact that that not only has today, but will have in the future. And the notion of resilience thinking and practice really helps us have a much more systemic perspective on those particular challenges and how they impact communities, people, places, and thinking differently, I think, thinking more comprehensively about what kinds of solutions might we come up with to deal with those challenges.
And how do you self, or indeed the Rockefeller Foundation, define resilience to apply this thinking?
So very much drawing from the work that the Stockholm Resilience Center has done and many others in this space, we view resilience really as a capacity, the capacity of individuals, of communities, of systems to really be able to not only survive, but also adapt and even thrive in the face of various shocks and stresses. So that focus on how is one able to support adaptive, absorptive, transformative capacities, we very much focus on that.
And if we say that we're looking at slightly more specific issues connected to, say, poverty or gender equality, again, how do you embrace the resilience thinking into these kind of
So it's just been fascinating, I think, being here and being in sessions where we're actually talking about that. And I think one of the most critical things for the community is to understand the additional value, the value proposition of resilience thinking, and kind of thinking about its differentiation from good development practice. Because I think a lot of what we talk about in terms of participatory approaches, ensuring that there's space for voice, all of that, to me, that is good development practice. When we think about the additional value of what resilience brings in, it really helps us to first, let's start understanding better, do we have the problem that we think we have? So it's really about, in my view, problem definition. Part of it is redefining the problem that we have and doing so in the way that allows us to assess not just one particular sector or issue, but how that relates to other issues or challenges in the system. So being able to look cross-scale, across time, understanding and mapping the system and various stakeholders and how they interact with one another and the connections between one another, I think are really critical aspects of resilience thinking. Easy to say, not so easy to do, which is, I think, one of the biggest challenges, I think, for us practitioners, if you will, in the international development space, is how do we begin to apply this practice in systems that are, as we all know, so complex and so challenging. And we at the foundation certainly have, we've embarked on this journey, particularly looking at the scale of urban spaces and thinking a little bit more carefully about what matters in urban spaces with respect to building resilience. What are those key things that actually help a community and a city become more resilient? And so our learning around that has been really quite great and very much aided by the work that the center has been doing on SCS systems.
Now, surely there should be room for improvement within the research on this. And if I can say, from an outsider's point of view, in a way, what would you think, or what would you say are the biggest challenges and what needs to be still improved?
So if the last decade at the foundation, where we've invested $500 million in resilience building around the world, has been about learning and influencing, really kind of helping to build the field of resilience along with colleagues at the Stockholm Resilience Center, the next decade is about actually implementing what we've learned. And the rubber meets the road very quickly when we have to begin to think about how do we know a community is resilient, how do we measure that, how do we value that, how do we begin to assess that a little bit more carefully. And the complexity that is inherent in resilience concepts, I think, is a real big challenge in terms of the kind of next frontiers, is how do we think about the notion of simplifying complexity, and which ways will be most compelling to actually have the kind of uptake that we all hope for, I think, within our communities, and particularly within communities that are making decisions about how places run and are governed, etc. So I love the conversations this week about how art is incorporated in this, how music and the arts just generally speaking, and I think that's critically important. But we also have to think about how do we speak to investors, to mayors. We have the 100 Resilient Cities network that we've invested in over the past few years, and there is a growing network of city resilience officers. So how do we speak to them about how to do resilience practice? Not just about the concepts that we've been discussing over the past, but how to actually put that in action and start to think about what it means to work and decide for complex adaptive systems. And I think there is a good deal more that we can do there in terms of building out those narratives and how that practice can be picked up by folks who are not steeped in the science and the research of resilience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.